In this video, I will demonstrate one type of provisional cast-on method, the open cast-on, also known as the looping provisional cast-on. It has some other names as well. If you're a subscriber, welcome back. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I'm happy to have you here. If you enjoy this video, please give it a like and consider subscribing. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you get a notice each time I go live or post a new video. The open cast-on method is a provisional cast-on method, and it uses waste yarn. So a provisional cast-on is simply a way to cast on that allows you to pick up live stitches at the cast-on edge to then work back the other way. So there are many different ways to work a provisional cast-on. There's a lot of different techniques that result in a provisional cast-on edge. This is just one technique. To work this, you need a piece of waste yarn and you need your working yarn. And I like to make just a slip knot with both of those strands together, leaving a short tail of both. And I don't place this on anything, I just make a slip knot. That way it can be easily removed later. So for this cast on, the yellow is going to be my waste yarn and the blue teal is going to be my working yarn. So you hold this like a long tail cast on and just kind of pinch that slip knot. I mean, you could put the slip knot on the needle if you wanted to. You need to make sure to remove it afterwards. So we're going to be picking up stitches around this piece of waste yarn and alternating with a yarn over. So I like to pick up a stitch first. So to pick up a stitch, you come with the right hand needle tip in front of the waste yarn, underneath, and you scoop a stitch of the working yarn. And we want to make sure this waste yarn stays below and parallel with this right hand needle. And then we make a yarn over with the working yarn. And we just alternate those two steps. In front of the waste yarn, scoop a loop, bring it in front, twist up, and then make a yarn over. Under, like so, and make a yarn over. And that's all there is to it. At the end, so you'll either have an even number of stitches or an odd number of stitches. So you will either be ending with a yarn over or you will be ending with a picked up stitch. Either way, you're going to have a loose stitch here at the end. So what you want to make sure you do, so if you've ended with a picked up stitch, like so, you can pinch and turn and keep that waste yarn down, anchoring that tail to then work your first row across. If you need to end with a yarn over, then make sure you cross that waste yarn tail to the back, anchoring that last yarn over, and turn and work across. And that will kind of anchor that the base of that last stitch. So let's say I'm done casting on, and I'll say I have stockinette stitch. I'm going to first cut my waste yarn, and now I will work like so. All of your stitches should have the right legs in front. Nothing should be twisted. And if you've placed that slip knot on the needle here, make sure you don't work it, you drop that. And I like to leave it as a slip knot just because this last loop here is not anchored. So keeping that slip knot in place helps keep that last little tail in place. So I'll work a few more rows and then I'll show you picking up the stitches along this provisional cast on edge. So I've worked a few more rows and let's imagine it's time to pick up these stitches from the cast on edge. So here is my cast on edge. I will undo that slip knot. And I'm going to loop by loop pick up the cast on loops. Now, with this cast on method, every other stitch is actually mounted twisted. So I need to look and this first one is mounted twisted. And I know that because I pull this loop up and this, I can see this is the left leg. So I need to, as I pick up these stitches, get them with the right legs in front. So that one, I'm picking up the back leg. And then this one is mounted correctly. And then this one is mounted backwards. And then this one's right. And you can undo the waste yarn as you go or at the end. Sometimes it's easier to do it as you go just in case you split the waste yarn as you're picking up your stitches. It can be difficult to pull the waste yarn out if the waste yarn gets split. So this loop from behind, without splitting it. You can also use the waste yarn to pull those loops up and make sure you're getting the loop and not the row below. And get that last loop like so. Now you should have the same number of loops as you had stitches going the other direction. If you are grafting cast on to bind off edge, you need to make sure you get an extra loop. So to do that, you use the tail and loop around the needle And then I'll use a tapestry needle to anchor that tail. Into the base of that stitch below. Just do that. I will weave that in later, but that gets me my extra loop for grafting purposes. If you're grafting cast on to bind off edge, this needle needs to have one extra loop. So there's the cast on edge all picked up. You can also work this cast on method by using a circular needle and casting on over the cable portion of the circular needle instead of or in place of the waste yarn. Then your stitches are all picked up except for that last extra loop if you need it, and you don't have to pick the stitches up. Now, do keep in mind that those stitches, every other stitch, will be twisted, backwards mounted with the right leg in back instead of in front. So when you work your first row off of the circular needle, keep that in mind and work every other stitch through the back loop. So that was the open cast on, a provisional cast on method. I hope this was helpful. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.